We are here to discuss steps to home ownership. We want to welcome you all. My name is Nick Tolchinsky, as you can see on your screen there, and we're excited to also have Sherilyn Escoto joining us today. She's a very experienced lender with CIBC Bank. So both of us will be presenting today. We'll probably be here about a half hour, but we can stay a little longer if needed for additional questions. We're also here with Marianne from Home SF, who's going to be our technical assistant and monitoring everything and also addressing any technical issues. So if you have any technical issues, please post them to chat. And if you have any questions regarding our content today, we'd love that. Please go ahead and post your questions to chat. And after our presentation, we'll go over those questions. So again, welcome, and let's go ahead and get going. So just some housekeeping. This workshop is being recorded for Home SF YouTube channel, okay? We're gonna keep folks on mute today, and then the QA period, we're gonna go ahead and go through the questions in the chat, all right? So again, don't hesitate to post any questions there. Any technical issues, go ahead and post them to chat, or if you're having problems with chat, go ahead and send an email to info@homeownershipsf.org, and Marianne will do her best to assist you if you're having any technical issues. So for the folks that want to enable closed captioning, so we have two different examples here for your computer. We have the instructions there on how to show caption. So you want to take a screenshot here if you want to do that. You can see the CC option and showing captions, and then choose the language. Okay, and for you folks using tablet or phone, similar process, choose CC and click on show captions and capture the language that works for you. So again, to enable closed captioning, does the instructions. All right, who is Home SF? Well, Home SF is a nonprofit agency here in San Francisco that works in partnership with Mayor of Housing. And we are a group of 5 agencies that you can see in front of you here that are also nonprofit agency. And we basically work under the umbrella of Home SF. We're all nonprofit. So I work with Balance. I've been with Balance for 15 years. Primarily, most of the counseling that I do is for first-time home buyers, also some rental and some post-purchase education as well. We also have Asian Inc. in the city, MEDA, SF LGBT Center, and SFHDC. Okay, so 5 nonprofit counseling agencies work under the umbrella of Home SF. So our agency, Balance, been around for 50 years in San Francisco, believe it or not. And we now have counselors nationwide. And we wanted to list the services that we provide. So you can see that on your screen. Home buying counseling, which is a little bit of what you're going to learn today. We're going to just touch on the basics. Post-purchase support, so folks that are already homeowners, we're here to help you. We're here to help you with any issues, other goals you may be setting, refinancing, things like that. Credit counseling, so we're going to definitely take a look at your credit, give you our action plan and steps to take to improve your credit if that's what you need. Debt management, that comes kind of works together with budgeting. It's really important. So we create a budget with you in our counseling sessions. We explain the importance of a budget, not only to create it, but maintain it and ultimately maintain your goals. And financial coaching in general, right? Everything from banking to credit to building assets, reducing debt, so forth. So you have all the information from our agency here. You've got the phone number and our website. So don't hesitate to give us a call or take a look at our services, and also our calendar of workshops and counseling sessions on our website as well. So first things we want to think about when we're considering home ownership, all right? There's a lot of folks out there that want to buy a home and they just get in the car and start going to open houses, and they want to call a real estate agent and say, I want to buy a home, buy me a home, find me a home. No, that's not the right steps. We offer education to let you know the first thing you should do, okay? And the first thing you should do is meet with the housing counselor. And it doesn't matter to us if you're looking to buy within 5 days or within 5 years. We're here to offer you education and guide you to help you meet your goals, right? So if you're not ready to buy now, no problem with us. We're still going to prepare you. We're going to coach you through the process, and we're going to also follow up with you to make sure you're staying on your goal. Okay, so meet with the housing counselor first. Then you're going to meet with the lender. Somebody like Cheryl Lynn. And Cheryl Lynn is going to go through a process where she'll explain later what they're going to evaluate and review to move you to the next step, which is basically the pre-approval part, right? So counselor first, lender, and then after you meet with the lender, you'll have a good idea of what your affordability is and maybe what programs you might be a good fit for after you meet with the counselor and lender. Then you're going to meet with a real estate agent, and you're going to explain your goals to the real estate agent and then move forward with the shopping process. Okay. So really important to take advantage of these steps in that order. It just better education, you'll be more prepared. So when we meet with our clients, I should say when counselors meet with potential buyers, we always ask you, what is your short-term financial goal? What is your long-term financial goal? Because we want to prepare you for both, right? So if a short-term goal is owning a home, we're going to focus on that. We're going to evaluate where you stand. We're basically going to do a little bit of evaluation that a lender would do in a lot of detail. Okay, we just want to give you our recommendation, our opinion. If you're ready to go, if not, what steps you need to take before you're ready to go. Okay, so is owning a home, does it fit into your financial goals? We'll talk about that. Okay, we always want to know what your goals are, and then we'll give you our feedback after we go through your profile. Understanding your credit. So in our counseling sessions, we're going to run your credit report. It's always a soft pull with balance. That means there's no effect on your score. We're doing it for educational reasons. So we're going to take a look at your credit, go over your debts with you. We'll be able to tell you what your credit score is, at least with one of the bureaus. And then we'll come up with any recommendations if you need any, if there's anything to address. You're going to learn from us in the counseling session. Then we want you to have a certain amount of money saved up, right? And Sherilyn will touch on that in more detail, but typically in a home purchase, you're going to need down payment and closing costs. So we're going to give you some estimates what you think you may need based on your overall profile, okay, and your overall affordability. And identifying your housing priorities. What do you want and need in a home? How long will you live there? Well, first of all, you want to know how long will you live there before you consider home ownership, because your finances may change in the short term and long term. So before you make a decision, you want to know, are you going to live in the home for 2 to 5 years, or are you going to be there the rest of your life? Right? Some folks may be close to retirement age. You want to take that into account to see what your post-retirement income will be. Okay. And then also, just as important, you want to know what's important to you in a home. What features, what size, what neighborhood. Are you okay with having stairs in your home? How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms? So all those things you want to list as priorities. So when you do meet with the realtor, you're prepared, because this is what they want to know. They're going to filter down and look for what's best for you. So start making an account of what's important for you. Again, size of a home, what type of a home, what neighborhood, whether it's San Francisco or in another area. Okay, so think about all these steps here. All right, review your budget regularly. How much can you spend on housing expenses and a down payment? Okay, so again, I touched on that. We're going to create a budget. We're going to talk about what your net income is, take home pay, and we're going to deduct all your monthly expenses. And then we're going to plug in a potential housing payment to see if that works in your budget. All right, because lenders can determine how much you can afford based on your income, based on the cost of a home, and your other debts that are on your credit report. But as counselors, we take it a step further. We're going to do a budget, right? We want to know, maybe you have family that you take care of. Maybe you have an obligation for children and their education. Well, these type of expenses their lender will not know about, right? So these are the things you want to take into account before you actually determine if you can afford a housing payment in addition to all of your other discretionary expenses. Okay. All right. Am I prepared? I have met with the housing counselor, attended a first-time homebuyer workshop, right? So there are steps to take, which we'll talk about, to get certified if you're going to use any programs to the city of San Francisco. Um, have I saved up enough money for reserves, down payment, and closing costs? So we're going to give you an idea of what we recommend you save up for. My credit is where the lender guidelines are, and we'll talk about that later in the workshop. And I have a realistic budget so that I know I can be comfortable with this new housing payment that I'm going to be taking on. All right. Well, as I stated earlier, we are excited to have Sherilyn Escoto with us. Sherilyn is a very experienced lender with CIBC, and she's also an approved lender with the Mayor of Housing. So she has a lot of experience with the programs that are offered in San Francisco, in other areas, and also programs that are offered specifically by her bank. So with that being said, Cheryl, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to give you some information about how to get a mortgage and also understand the process. So you hear about pre qualification versus pre-approval. What the sellers are looking for is the pre-approval and not the pre-qualification. The biggest difference between the pre-qualification versus pre-approval is that pre-qualification, we typically just do a quick analysis of what your current debt and what your current income is. We don't typically verify those. Oftentimes when I'm talking to a client, I can just ask them these questions, and if they know it, there are certain lenders that have the ability to do a soft pull, kind of like what Nick would do when they're doing some budgeting with you. Most of us lenders usually don't have that. When we do pull a credit, we do a hard pull, which is uh, um, a complete credit pull. We will need to do that in order to actually issue you a pre-approval letter. So we will validate, you ask for your income, use a credit report, and validate the current debt that you currently have. And then we will determine what your maximum eligibility is for, as far as what your maximum loan that you're eligible for based on the potential down payment that you want to use. So that's kind of the biggest difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Again, what you will need is a pre-approval. Your realtor will actually ask you for a pre-approval letter, because that's what they will use to submit with your offer to the sellers. You want to make sure that the payments on your pre-approval is something that you are comfortable with. Your lender should go over what your maximum eligibility is, your monthly payments. Just make sure that you are comfortable with that. If you are not, then maybe you want to lower down the loan amount and the purchase price and see what you are comfortable with. The pre-approval is typically good for 3 months. The reason for that is credit pull typically is only good for 3 months, for 90 days. After 3 months, it is expired, and depending on where you are in your search, we may or may not pull another one. How much can you afford? So typically, once we do your once we start working on your application, we will estimate what you can afford. We typically use your gross income and not your net income, is how we determine what income we use. What's the potential mortgage program that you are eligible for? You can go over again your estimated monthly payment, also how much you'll need to pay at closing, and what is your maximum purchase. So typically, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. So when we calculate how much you can afford, so again, I mentioned we do use your gross income. The common debt to, you'll hear debt to income ratio or DTI calculation is what lenders typically use. We use 45% debt to income ratio on conventional loans, or we can go up to 50% debt to income ratio. In line with the mayor's office program, we try to keep it at 45%. How we typically calculate that, and this is something that you could definitely use, is your total monthly debt, you divide that by your total monthly gross income, and that should be at 45% debt to income ratio. Now, if you're higher than that, then you know you need to do something with your current debt, right? So you may want to look at it and maybe bring it down. What we use when we're calculating your monthly debt is what is your monthly obligation that is showing up on your credit report. So that means if you may have a credit card that has a $5,000 balance, but it's only $50 a month, which is a monthly obligation. That's what we use in determining what your debt to income ratio. Another option is if you're not sure what your debt is, right? So you can use your the calculation of using your monthly gross income, and you multiply that with 45% debt to income ratio. That usually will give you your monthly allowable debt, right? So you can look at it and say, okay, if I make this much and that much, and use the 45% DTI, and your total monthly debt comes up to $10,000 a month, then you know how much potential you can afford as far as you're comfortable with your mortgage payment, right? You can include your current monthly debt already within that. So that could be very helpful. Again, two ways of determining what the DTI is: your total monthly debt divided by your total gross income, and it should be at 45% DTI. Or the other one is your total monthly gross income, and you multiply that by the 45% debt to income. That should give you what your allowable monthly debt is, and that includes your mortgage payment. What is good credit? So when we determine once we work on your application, we definitely want to see what your credit is, right? Because it can drive what type of mortgage product that we can put you in. Also, it will help with interest rates, and what the required down payments are. Depending on what your credit is, you may be able to do a 3% down payment versus a minimum of 10% down payment, right? There are typically, when we pull your credits, there are 3 credit bureaus, right? We have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Each credit bureaus will have a credit score. So out of the 3, we typically use the middle score to determine what we will use with your application. So you could have an 800 score in one, and another one that is 700, and another one is 750. So we'll typically use the 750 credit score. How much down payment do you have? So I guess it really depends. It depends on how much you're borrowing, what's your credit score, right, and what kind of loan you're looking for or you can qualify for, and will you pay mortgage interest? Again, it really kind of depends on what the loan structure is. Once we do the application and we determine what your debt to income ratio and what your qualification is, then we'll look at potentially what kind of mortgage that you may be eligible for. So you've heard the conventional mortgage, which typically is the minimum is 5% down payment. And depending on what your credit score is, if it's a lot lower than what the standard score is, then you might have to put 10% down payment. There are also other products right now with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that are more geared to first-time home buyers and low to moderate income buyers. One is a Fannie Mae Home Ready, and the other one is Freddie Mac Home Possible. Both mortgage product requires 3% down payment, and the 3% down payment can also come from a gift. The conventional mortgage, where you're required to do a 5% down payment, that money has to come from you, so it can't be a gift. So going back with the Home Ready and Home Possible, so it's 3% down payment. It could be a gift or a grant. The minimum credit score is 620, and the minimum income it has to meet the 80% AMI, which is currently in the Bay Area at 134,480. They always make it so complicated to remember. So those are the other programs. Actually, it's a really great program. And then there's also FHA, which I'm sure you probably might have heard of. FHA is typically 3.5%. FHA is usually pretty good if a borrower has less than 620 credit score. So minimum FICO is 580 with FHA. And then, of course, if you do have anything lower than that, between a 500 and a 579, you can still get an FHA loan, but your minimum down payment will be much higher at 10%. There's also Cal HFA. Again, it's 3.5%. If you don't have the 3.5% with Cal HFA, they also have a program called My Home Assistance, where you may be eligible for the down payment and the closing costs that they could provide, and essentially, just paying a minimal coming out of pocket from you. With regards to mortgage insurance is typically required anytime you have a mortgage or a loan that is less than 20% down payment. You will see a mortgage insurance added into your monthly payment. There could be other lenders out there. So if you are shopping around for your pre-approval, make sure that you ask other lenders if they have their own, what we call a portfolio mortgage program, where oftentimes what they'll do is, if they have it, is there is no mortgage insurance. And that could also be a saving, right? Because mortgage insurance is added on top of your mortgage payment. So it becomes an additional debt. So if you can save someone that, I know that there's quite a few lenders out there that have their own mortgage programs where they don't have mortgage insurance. Some of the transaction fees that you will see when you're buying a property, you probably have heard closing costs, right? So in addition to your down payment, you also need to make sure that you have some funds aside for closing costs. That's typically a rule of thumb of about 3% from the sale price that you're buying. Some of the costs associated are, on a buyer side, you have your title insurance, you have your loan fees, right? Loan fees, inspection, um, escrow fees and title fees usually kind of go hand in hand. So you will see that on the settlement statement from the title company. Loan fees typically will include whatever the bank or the lender is charging to do your loan. If there are any points or any origination fees included, that's also included the appraisal costs, which the buyers do have to pay for. The recording fees and transfer fees. Recording fees are typically, again, a part of the title and the escrow fees, and including the transfer fees. There are certain cities in the Bay Areas where transfer fees are a little bit different. I believe in San Francisco, the seller typically pays for the transfer fees. There are parts in the East Bay, like Oakland, where it's 50-50. The seller pays for it, and the other half the buyer pays for. Very, very important in San Francisco, if you are buying what we call a new build, a brand new property from the the developer, typically the buyer is responsible to pay for that transfer tax fee. So transfer tax fees are typically negotiable. So just make sure that you talk to your agent about, some of the things that you can negotiate with your contract. There are some things here where the seller pay the real estate commission, the city and tax. There's an additional city and tax transfer, settlement charges. These are settlement charges that they pay for selling the property. And if the property they're selling has any mortgage, that needs to be paid off, and usually there's some fees associated with that, and any lien against the property the seller pay for. Um, I know that some questions right now with regards to commissions, where I've had people ask me, or would the buyers, be paying for their agent's commission. Again, it's something that you can have a discussion with your agent about, asking the seller to go ahead and pay for their commission. Cash reserves. So very, very important when we are analyzing what you are eligible for your mortgage or for your loan, right? Typically, we do require that you have at least 2 to 3 months of housing payments. It's kind of what we call a reserve. So housing payments, I think it might have been on the previous slides I didn't mention, is what we call PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, which is your property tax, and I is for homeowners insurance. And if you are buying a condo in San Francisco, we also include the HOA fees in there. So the typical rule of thumb is you want to make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 months reserve to pay for your monthly mortgage payment. You often probably hear some of the lenders, if you're utilizing all of your cash that we want to see, we will ask for it if you have a retirement account, even though we're not going to be utilizing that money as a part of your down payment or your closing costs. We just want to show that you do have some additional funds or assets that were covered at 2 to 3 months reserve that we require. And I believe your housing counselor will also go over this requirements for you. And they typically want you to make sure that you have at least 3 to 6 months saved. So for the pre-approval process, when you are ready to complete your application, you reach out to your lender, and they'll send you a link to initiate an application. You complete the application. These are the documents that we typically ask for. So tax returns, we don't typically ask for tax return unless you are self-employed. If you are self-employed, you must have at least 2 years. You must have at least 2 years of filed tax return. Very, very important. Your taxes should have a positive net income. I've had some people where, I'd see a tax return and they made quite a bit of money, but the net income is at a negative. That means I really can't, there's no income to utilize. So very, very, very important. If you are self-employed, you want to make sure that your taxes is showing some income. So if you are starting to look for it, starting to think about buying a home and you're self-employed, you may want to have some discussions with your CPA or your accountant, whoever is helping you with your taxes, to let them know that you have to show some net income on your tax returns. If you're not self-employed, we typically do not require that. The other two is your two most recent paycheck stub is the other one. We don't typically ask for three. The only time we need three is if you are getting paid bi-weekly. Because what we're looking for is a 30-day coverage of pay. So if you are bi-weekly, then we'll ask for three. If you get paid semi-monthly, meaning the first or the last of the month, and in the middle of the month, then it's two paycheck. And if you get paid bi-monthly, I know some city employees get paid once a month, then we'll need 2 months. And then for the other, if we can go back in there, Anne Marie, sorry. And then the other one is the bank statements. So we typically need at least 2 months of most recent bank statements to show where your assets are, to show where your down payment is coming from, and your closing costs, and also your reserve. Um, Oh, and additional income. If you are receiving any child support or alimony, we do need to see some of the court documents that you are receiving that. And we also need to verify that you are still receiving that for the next 3 years. If it's ending within the next 3 years, we will not be able to use it as additional income. If you are receiving any Social Security or any retirement pension, we do need a letter verifying that you're receiving it. Current lease, we don't typically require that unless it depends on the mortgage program may require it. But some lenders will want to see your lease and 12-month history of rent history. Again, it varies on what mortgage program they will be using. Oh, gift funds. Gift funds. So gift funds, yes. So sorry, I didn't see that. So gift funds, typically what we do need to assign a gift letter. So your lender will provide you a letter that you and your parents' family that is giving you a gift needs to be signed, helping you for your down payment or your closing costs. So just your lender will give you that letter. So your pre-approval letter, again, it's typically good for three months, right? 90 days. After 90 days, it is considered expired. Work with your lender if you still haven't found a property, but you don't want your credit to be pulled. Oftentimes, as long as there are no major changes in your credit report, you have not bought a brand new car, that could affect your debt to income ratio. Everything hasn't changed much, then I typically don't pull credit unless I really need to. Because if you're still actively looking, then I can use that. Now, once you get into a contract, because it is expired, I will need to pull an updated credit report. One of the biggest thing with that can affect your pre-approval again is you want to make sure that your financial situation do not change, because it can definitely impact your pre-approval. So my biggest advice is that don't buy anything, don't open new credits, don't increase any current debt. Just wait until you are in your home, and once you're in your home, you can do whatever it is that you need to. But again, it's very, very important to minimize the uh, debt that you can potentially incur. And of course, with the rising interest rate right now, that can also affect your pre-approval. So you want to make sure you stay in communication with your lender before you make an offer on a property. Just double check and check with them and say, hey, what's the interest rate, the rate on the pre-approval is this rate? Is the rate still the same? Did it go up? Did it go down? Because I'm making an offer on this property, and I just want to make sure that there are no surprises should I get into contract.
All right. Shirley, thank you so much. So valuable. So we have a little bit more information to go through. Finding a property. So we encourage you not to get discouraged, especially in the Bay Area, specifically in San Francisco. It's a hot market, right? So if your offer is not accepted, don't lose faith. Keep working on finances and be open-minded in the real estate world, and something will click. So do not get discouraged. The realtor's role is to help you write the offer and explain how a contract works. And if you have that pre-approval letter, you're going to be that much more of a solid buyer, right? A seller of a home, if they know you've been pre-approved, they want to work with you. They know that a bank has already reviewed your finances. So that's why that pre-approval is critical. And earnest deposit money is you're putting down deposit to purchase the home. Typically, I believe it's 1% of the purchase price. And so there are some contingencies that would protect you in a real estate contract. We're not going to get into that today. We can talk about that in a counseling session or at our workshops, but in certain circumstances, you can get that deposit back. Okay. When your offer is accepted, the real estate agent would open escrow with the title company. In a typical real estate transaction, it's about 30 days. But if you're looking to purchase in San Francisco with programs, first-time homebuyer programs such as BMR, down payment assistance, you're looking at closer to 45 to 60 days because the bank has to review you and do their underwriting, and so does the city. So that's why an extended amount of time is needed. So tips for your search. When you're going to a new development, bring your realtor to the first visit so they can sign in with you. Yeah, we're not really experienced as first-time home buyers, right? What are we looking for in a development, whether it's new or not, right? So bring your real estate agent so they can offer you their opinions and the positives and probably negatives, right? Take advantage of their expertise. Disclosure packets. So there will be information provided on the property that you want to review, including disclosures, inspections. So really important to review with your real estate agent just to learn more about the property. Home association dues. For you folks not familiar with what HOA dues are, these are dues that you pay if you own a condominium or a townhome, right? So they cover many different parts of your obligation, right? The insurance for the common areas of the building, amenities of the building, water, garbage. So everyone that lives in the property contributes, and that comes in a form of home association. Single family home is a detached property. So it says here, buying a detached home doesn't mean you can offer a higher price. Okay. As far as pricing and what you're going to offer, that's when you want to build a relationship with your real estate agent. And they'll let you know based on the homework they do and the communication they have with the seller's agent, whether or not you need to offer more than the current price that's listed, if there's competition, where they're at, or if the house has been sitting for a long time, you may have some wiggle room to negotiate and maybe offer less. How much less? That's between you and the realtor. So in San Francisco, as we mentioned, there are first-time homebuyer programs that for folks that decide to move on to take the classes, you'll learn the rules of all the programs, the restrictions, the income guidelines, but primarily you're going to look at BMR program, which is below market rate condominiums in San Francisco. You're going to also look at loan assistance programs. So there are programs that help you in the BMR market and also in the open market. So they all have income limits. Again, we're not digging into all those details today, but that's why we encourage you to attend an orientation to learn all the details and see if the programs are right for you. Okay. But AMI stands for area median income. So for down payment assistance loan program in the open market, you can go to 200%. And again, we're going to show you a quick chart here so you have an idea what that is. Below market rate, you want to be between 80 and 130. So speaking of the AMI chart, this is an updated chart which shows what your maximum income needs to be for certain programs. Okay, and this is based on the number in your household. So as you can see in the green line, we have one person, two person, three persons, or four. So as Sherilyn mentioned before, it's always gross income that's evaluated by the city, by the lender. So these are the maximum numbers you want to make sure your household is under if you're going to apply for one of the programs that's offered. Okay, and again, more detail in the orientation. As far as programs outside of the city programs, there's a WISH program. It's actually a match. Okay, so they offer, I believe, up to 30 or so thousand now. And if you live in the home for at least 5 years, you won't have to pay that money back. And this is through the Federal Home Loan Bank. So it's not a loan through the city. Okay. And some lenders out there have access to WISH, or they're what we call a grant recipient. So you want to talk to Sherilyn to see if her bank can work with WISH. If not, they have their own programs as well. So that goes up to 80% of area median income. Again, that's the maximum number, okay? Lender closing cost credits. So we know a couple of lenders out there that offer credits if your income qualifies. So come in experienced, come to a lender and say, hey, I've heard some lenders offer credits for closing. What can you offer me? Okay, and hear them out. And they'll evaluate your income, tell you if they have funds, and if so, how much funds you would be eligible for, and if those funds can go towards down payment or closing costs or both. Okay. So household income limits and program restrictions vary by program. I mentioned that. Different rules for different programs. And asking your lender about funding timelines and availability. You want to make sure before you move forward with the lender, they understand your deadline, whether it's for down payment assistance program, a below market rate property. Be very clear with them what you're applying for and what the deadline is, because you don't want to start the process and then they go on vacation and you're stuck. So communicate and be open. So housing counselor, we can help with translation if you're having any language barriers. We have at Balance counselors that speak Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, and Russian. We also have online language translation services through a phone system that we can counsel you through as well. Again, we offer homebuyer education. That's kind of what you're going through right now. So that's our role. We're educating you, we're counseling you, we're coaching you. We're gonna keep a relationship going with you. At least we do with Balance. Okay, we're gonna build your credit. We're gonna talk about debt. We're gonna talk about what programs we think may be a good fit for you. And we want you to be experienced in knowing what's out there, and then you can decide with your lender which ones you'll apply for. Okay, and we'll offer you financial tools for savings, whether it's apps, budgeting advice. We'll give you resources to help you with budgeting and saving. All right. Well, I'm guessing the folks that have joined us are familiar that there's a housing fair coming up on June 21st. So this is an exciting event that Home SF hosts every year. And this year it's at the University of San Francisco. You see the address there, 2130 Fulton Street. And it's on Saturday, 21st between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. It's a great event. There are so many professionals and resources for you there. There's going to be discussions on everything related to housing, including rental. So folks out there considering looking into affordable rental programs, you're going to find resources there as well. So take a screenshot here so you have the address, the time for the expo, Saturday, June 21st. All right. And so now we'd like to get some feedback from you. You see the QR code there, and also the link if the QR code isn't working for you. We want you to please give us a survey, some background on what you thought of our presentation today. We think this is really valuable, and so therefore we're happy you're here. You're taking the first step. Okay, what you decide to do is up to you, and you'll get some guidance through the process, but you've taken the first step just to introduce yourself to the next steps of home ownership. Okay, so you see the two agencies that were here contributing, CIBC, obviously Sherilyn's bank, and then our nonprofit counseling agency, Balance. Okay. So with that being said, we have some time to go over some questions. So let's go to chat.
Is it okay if I leave my contact information on the chat?
Absolutely.
No questions in the chat at this time, but if anyone had any questions, please feel free to unmute or you can write it in the chat as well.
Is it okay if I share with everyone that we do have a grant for San Francisco?
Absolutely.
Okay. So As Nick mentioned earlier, there are some other grants available, such as the WISH program, with San Francisco, is it Federal Home Loan Bank? We currently are not participating in that right at the moment, but we do have our own grant available only in San Francisco for first-time home buyers who meet the 80% AMI. So it's $25,000 towards the down payment and $10,000 towards your closing costs. And so it's a total of $35,000, and it is a full 100% grant. So you're not paying back the bank.
Fantastic. All right. So, Marianne, do you have any questions throughout the presentation at all that we need to address?
No, I didn't see any in the chat. And yeah, folks, if you have a question, feel free to ask now, but you can also contact our presenters through their information as well if you have a question later. But no, it doesn't seem like.
Do they want to unmute since there's only a few of us instead of typing?
As you can see, you have contact information for Cheryl and myself. If there's any questions regarding any programs or your next steps with education or pre-approval, you know how to reach us both.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't look like there are any questions coming in. So again, thank you for your time. We do hope that you completed the evaluation for us to this QR code. You've got all the contact information. Most of all, we're going to wish you the best of luck. It's an exciting journey. You're here with your first steps, and we're here to help guide you. So good luck to everyone, and we hope to see you at the expo on the 21st.
Yes, we will be there. Hope to see you there.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you, everyone. Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.